Hi, everyone. This is KLMeri.
And this is Soda.
Welcome back to another podcast. Today, Soda and I will chat about two episodes of Star Trek New Voyages. That's the fan series. We watched episodes 6 and 7.
Yeah. Enemy Starfleet and the Child.
I have to say, Soda, I am finally in the mindset that this is truly like a Star Trek television series. I don't know how I perceived it before, but it's grown on me to the point now where I don't really distinguish it as different from the original series that we know.
Yeah, it really hit a stride here, I think. It's very consistent. It manages to replicate the tone of the original series very well. Yeah, and it's very enjoyable to watch.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It hit its stride. Um, I, like you said, I don't feel that I'm watching something um, less than less than the expectation I would have had for the original series episodes. So that's good because it means I can sit and watch it and enjoy it and have very very thinky thoughts about it.
Yeah. What I found interesting about these two episodes that we watch is that they seem to be, both of them are kind of callbacks to series that are post the original series, other Star Trek shows.
Yeah.
We'll get more into it when we talk about the episode themselves, but yeah, let's dive in.
So episode 6, enemy Starfleet with an
Yeah.
exclamation point. Um, so we open with the Enterprise doing I'll say a survey mission on an uninhabited planet,
Yeah.
supposedly in an uninhabited star system. They're looking for iridium, something like that.
Yeah, they're looking for a resource, basically. Yeah.
They have a landing party on the planet when suddenly they are being attacked out of
Yeah.
nowhere by an enemy that they did not even know was in the vicinity.
Yeah. Both the landing party and the Enterprise itself are being attacked simultaneously. Yeah.
And so when they make contact with the ship, as you said, they learn that there's an enemy vessel who's shooting at them. There are also enemies on the ground.
Yeah.
And they manage to capture one. So they take a prisoner when they return to the Enterprise and are pursuing the enemy vessels who are turns out to be multiple of them who are swarming the Enterprise and really just trying to attack one spot on the Enterprise vessel, like they know or have seen before the configuration of the
Ship.
Enterprise starship.
Yeah. Yeah. Um the enemy vessels, they refuse communication. They won't talk to them,
Yeah.
and they're attacking this specific um point. And Kirk, he calls for the prisoner to be brought in for questioning. And the prison is, well, he reveals his name is Kirill, and he's a Passion. He's from the people called the Passions, and he's very suspicious of the crew of the Enterprise, and he asks them if they're Mexicans, and if they're working with someone named Alersa. Kirk doesn't know what he's talking about. He denies, both of those claims. He has no idea who the Mexicans or who Alersa is. And just as they're arguing, a second starship ship arrives.
And it's killing the Peshin
And
fleet.
it starts firing on the Passion fleet and destroying them, because their ships are not very advanced. And the Enterprise is trying to be careful in stopping them, but this other ship is just shooting them indiscriminately.
Yeah. And they immediately recognize from their records that it's the USS Eagle, which was lost in another space quadrant 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's back suddenly and it's souped up
Yeah, it seems
with
modified. Yeah.
upgrades. It's
Yeah.
been modified. And it is also refusing communication with the Enterprise because Kirk wants to know who the heck is commanding that ship and why
Yeah.
are they shooting the Peshens.
Yeah, so the Enterprise is trying to defend the Passion ships, extend its, its defenses, but it's very hard because the Passions are not staying in one place. And the prisoner Alcar, he reveals to Kirk that the ship is commanded by Olursa, the person he mentioned beforehand. Olursa is a Mascan, and she's a psychomorph. A psychomorph is a person that apparently is able to twist other people's perception of reality to influence their decisions. So not exactly brainwashing, but something very similar, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the Mexicans apparently use this ability to take over other people's ships, and in the past, the Mexicans didn't do that, but apparently because the Prussians oppressed them, the Mexicans decided to use this ability to overcome their oppression.
Mhm.
Um,
And we should mention that Alisar,
Alersa, yeah.
the actress playing her is the actress who played Marlena Monroe
Yeah, in Mirror
in the
Mirror,
Mirror
yeah,
Universe episode.
yeah.
Recognized her right away.
Yeah. And I think she also played in another episode in the series, right?
Yeah,
In
she
the in New
did.
Voyages, yeah. In the first episode or something like that. She played a different character. Um but anyways, Kirk finally manages to get through to the Eagle and he speaks to Alersa. Um and she reveals that she is basically sort of controlling the minds of several crew members of the original crew members of the Eagle. But they can't figure out, the transporter technology. They managed to figure out the weapons and the shields, but not the transporter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't manage to come to an understanding because Kirk understandably doesn't want to beam over to the Eagle, and Alersa won't come to the Enterprise, and she won't surrender. So they engage in a fight, basically. But they are sort of evenly matched. Because Alersa and her crew had 8 years to study the Eagle and understand how Starfleet ships are made and what's their weaknesses. And as we mentioned before, they souped up their own ship, so they have those snazzy new shields that are very hard for the Enterprise to break through.
They've also made it so that even though the Enterprise can like disable the sensors on the ship so that at least they're buying themselves some time so the Eagle can't attack the
Yeah,
other Pessin ships. It also means that the Enterprise uh, ends up also with damaged weapon systems, etc. And so they're kind of, I'll say, coming up with a plan on what they're going to do to stop the Eagle.
yeah,
So everybody gets together to think about how do we do this, and it's Spock who comes up with a solution to create a subspace disruption that would essentially create a dead zone around the two star systems for um,
warp travel. Yeah,
yeah, Meshkin and for the
yeah,
Pessin star system. So they would be essentially disabling all the ships in the area. Nobody would be able to fight a war, basically, but at the
yeah.
same time, you then isolate both civilizations, which could be dangerous in and of itself.
Yeah. So Spock and Kirill, who is the passion, they support this plan, but Bones
Hmm.
and Kirk in this initially don't support it because, as they reason out, both both people have colonies in different planets. They would effectively be cut off from the mother planet, those
Yeah.
colonies. Um, a lot of people will probably die or suffer as a result, and
People be stranded
yeah,
in space.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah,
It turns out they don't have a lot of choice.
yeah,
Kirk eventually comes around to the idea,
yeah.
after the Peshens at least agree that they will go along with this plan.
hmm Especially because the Mexicans attack again and they kill a lot of Prussians, and Kirk kind of realizes there is no other choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but in order for the plan to work, they'll need to modify the Eagle's engines, which means that two crew members will have to sneak on to the Eagle and s- commit some acts of sabotage while going undetected. And they would have to beam back to the Enterprise, and the Enterprise would have to create a wormhole and escape the area before
The
the dead
disruption takes
zone.
place.
Yeah, the dead zone will start. So it's a lot of it's a very time crunch dependent plan. Yeah,
Naturally, Kirk volunteers himself
yeah,
against Spock's wishes,
of
and
course.
he takes his nephew, Peter.
Yeah, Peter is actually there's some continuity from the last couple of episodes. Peter
Hmm.
is still dealing with the grief over losing his fiance from the last episode. And like a true Kirk, he's drawing himself into work. Um, and uh, Kirk himself is kind of, is not happy about it, and he's also not happy that Bones kind of, you know,
Is pushing him to,
yeah,
have a personal conversation with his nephew and help,
yeah,
support his nephew and kind of help him through this rough patch.
yeah,
Um, and Kirk, not that Kirk wouldn't do that, but he's in the middle of a firefight.
yeah. But he also doesn't like seeing himself in Peter, and Peter is very much
Yeah,
acting like him. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
We forgot to mention, but Peter was on the landing party on the planet in the beginning, and he made a mistake by when they were taking cover from the firefight. He attempted to go after someone who had been shot and put himself and the others in a dangerous position.
yeah,
Um, so although he recovered back on the ship, he recognizes he made a mistake, and of course he is overthinking it and thinking that perhaps his uncle will just put in his transfer orders right away because
yeah,
he made such a critical error in a dangerous situation.
yeah,
Um, Eventually, McCoy finagles Kirk into taking a moment to talk to his nephew, where he assures him, he is not going to do something as drastic as transfer him off the ship, and that, mistakes happen and
yeah,
they should be learned from. And he tries to talk his nephew through how to uh how to deal with losing somebody.
yeah. So Peter and Kirk, Peter actually Kirk talks to Alersa and offers to come on board himself on board of the Eagle, and
Hmm.
Alersa and he promises Alersa that he'll teach her about the transporter. So of course Alersa immediately agrees. Um, and they use a sort of subcutaneous implant thing to make it so that um, Peter would be able to beam in on a delay. So Kirk beams in first to the Eagle. Alersa and her people kind of take him to Alersa's quarters, and Peter
Hmm.
beams in a few minutes later. Um, in a very classic Trek moment, Alersa is sort of trying to seduce Kirk into being under her spell and brainwash him to tell him, because she kind of suspects that he's not there just to be nice to her. She knows he has a plan, and she's trying to
Right.
yeah, to twist his mind, to influence him to tell her what the plan is. And it seems to be working for a bit. They get kind of very close. He starts kissing her. And then, of course, at the right moment, he reveals that the mind tricks basically didn't work on him, and he disables her and goes on to finish his mission. Meanwhile, Peter also finishes his mission. They meet up and they manage to escape. They escape to the Enterprise. The Enterprise manages to flee in time, and the disruption occurs.
That's correct. And the prisoner who's on the Enterprise goes with them into Federation space,
Yeah,
having chosen to remain off his own colony in order to help those people who will be stuck in the dead zone
yeah,
after the fact. Um, the Enterprise is back in Federation space and can report what's going on. And then we kind of end the episode with Kirk giving Chekhov a promotion.
yeah.
Surprise.
Surprise. Yeah, it's a very, very classic original series episode kind of structure.
Very classic.
Yeah. Um, One thing I would say is I had this complaint about episodes before. I do think they don't handle the techno babble very well. It took me like 3 watches. I rewinded 3 times to understand the scene where Spock kind of explains his idea because he didn't get what he wanted to do um the first time. Yeah, I think they could make it clearer.
I would say I kind of understood what Spock was going for with the subspace disruption. I'm like, oh, they're just gonna. I really did was like, yeah, they're just gonna make a dead zone. Um, I think it surprised me, however, that Kirk like disagreed and then flipped around and finally agreed to the plan, even though I understand that we had to show that really he's forced into that position with not a lot of other options
Yeah,
and time against them, right?
yeah,
And lives at stake. Um, so otherwise, I mean, I'm with you. This to me, like it, it had enough action and kind of interspersed with some of the moments like where, you know, McCoy's talking to Peter or Chekhov's talking to Peter or Bones and Kirk are having an argument about who's going to talk to Peter.
yeah,
It had enough of that interspersed with the action scenes and kind of what was going on the other ship and the firefight going on that it carried me all the way through. Kept my attention through the episode. It didn't feel very discordant. It actually
yeah.
felt like classic Trek storytelling.
Absolutely, yeah. It really felt like very classic Trek.
It was I was like, this story is pretty tight.
Yeah,
It did, I mean, it did feel a little long by the end, but at the same time it wasn't like blood and fire
yeah.
movie
And I
like
mean, it was almost an hour long. It's like
yeah,
58 minutes
58,
or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
58 minutes. And even though it had all the classic like kind of Trek stuff we're used to, being stuck in a firefight, civilizations at stake, and unknown enemy. Even using another Starfleet vessel as sort of the villain.
yeah,
um, None of that was really surprising to me, but it was done in such a way that I didn't mind watching the episode.
yeah.
Uh,
I agree. Um, I did say it reminded me of a different Trek show. It
mhm,
actually reminded me of, well, in the first 2 seasons of Voyager, the main antagonist is a race of people called the Kazon. And the Mexicans and the Kazon are kind of very similar. I mean, the Kazon are kind of weird looking. I think fans kind of call them
mhm.
cabbage heads because their hair looks like cabbage leaves. Um, but The Kazon are also people who used to be subjugated, and they rose up against their oppressors, and they stole their oppressors' technology and ships, and they basically uh, roam around using their former oppressors' ships. And it's a very similar story to the Meskans. Um, the Kazon story in The Voyager was honestly not very well handled. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
told in an interesting way most of the time. In this format, it feels a little, a little more interesting because it's a one and done. We don't have to spend too much time with them.
It's a little more palatable. I mean, this
Yeah,
basically like the Eagle showed up in this area of space, and like you said, um, the this race essentially commandeered this ship and this technology, reverse engineered it, and made their own fleet out of it.
yeah,
um, and then used it to attack their enemies they're at war with.
yeah.
Um, Definitely not far-reaching concept, but I think it was just done with, like you said, just enough information that you got what you needed to know out of it, and then you got into, the climax of the story.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what did you think about the villainess?
Classic track villainess, Um, the
Especially
seduction,
classic female.
yeah, the seductress. She's over the top. She's very fun, but she's very one note too.
Hmm. I laughed at her outfit because everybody else was like in their military uniforms.
Yeah, and she's just like in this pirate-inspired uniform. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And yeah, she doesn't act like a military commander at all. She acts more like a pirate who's
yeah.
forcing a bunch of captive
Well,
crew to do her
she's
bidding.
kind of a pirate. I mean, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The whole scene with Kirk in her quote room, with the red everywhere and the skulls on the
yeah,
table,
yeah,
and using her psychomorph powers to make her look quote different and more beautiful, more attractive to Kirk.
yeah, yeah.
And with the classic kiss, come on.
And the music, of course, the classic
And the music.
romantic music. Yeah,
I have to say, they have the whole soundtrack now in this show, from the original series.
yeah,
All the right moments where they like play the fight music, or as we'll see in the next episode, like if they're doing some kind of mind melding, like it's all in sync with how we would have heard it, in various, I'll say, story points in any TOS episode.
yeah. Though I do feel I have this slight criticism that the sound mixing is not very good on those episodes. In a lot of places, you can hear the music or the background noise, like maybe the ship's background noise, the transporter noise, this noise the transporter
Mm-hmm.
makes when they use it, or the elevator noise when they enter the lift and it does this whooshing sounds like it's going up. It overpowers the dialogue in a lot of places, and it's very jarring.
I mean, also just the way they recorded some of it, there's definitely some technical issues with their
Yeah,
sound.
yeah,
Even they're capturing like their voicing, like actor speaking. There's some static in some of those scenes. I was like, okay, you're reminding me that this is a fan production.
yeah,
It's not backed by CBS.
yeah.
um but at the same time, it wasn't, to me it wasn't enough to throw me out of the
No,
episode.
yeah, I agree. It wasn't enough. Yeah, it's still pretty good. It's still a fun watch all over.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I thought it was a solid episode. I mean,
yeah, me too.
I could have seen this as a plot in um any of the 3 seasons in TOS.
Yeah,
And it also made me realize that Peter Kirk is a becoming less of a side character and more
Secondary
of a
character.
return, a secondary character to the
He-
bridge crew for
Yeah,
the moment.
yeah, for the moment, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shall we move on to the next episode?
Yes, the child.
The Child. This one is an interesting one because the original script is actually from the 70s. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it was
I
written
didn't know that.
by, yeah, it was supposed to be an episode in Gene Roddenberry's, phase 2 of Star Trek.
Hmm.
And it was never produced, of course. It was produced a little later, but we'll talk about it after we finish talking about the episode. So we start on the night shift, and Sulu is in command. And the Enterprise encounters a strange cloud of radiation they've never encountered before. Um, they check the radiation and it's not in dangerous levels. It won't really affect the ship, so they decide not to wake the captain and tell him about it. And from this cloud, this weird ball of light enters the ship and starts floating around the ship's crew quarters. And you see it enter all kinds of crew quarters as they sleep. And like the ball kind of examines each of them. So we see it, visit Spock and Scotty and Kirk. And finally, it arrives at the room of Ensign Isel, who is a Deltan. It enters her body very briefly and then leaves and exits the ship. And then, of course, the morning shift comes. The lights go up, as McCoy says. And Isel stumbles out of her room and goes to sickbay and informs um, McCoy that she's pregnant.
Yeah, and then she has a pregnancy for 3 days and then gives birth.
Yeah. If you remember from the original series, the first movie, the motion
Yep.
picture, where we first meet the Deltans take a vow of celibacy when they join Starfleet. They're not allowed to have sex. Um, and, this makes the pregnancy extra weird. And then, yes, as you said, the fact that she gives birth 3 days later again makes it even more weird. By that time, everybody kind of figured out, that this pregnancy isn't normal and it's probably related to the balls of light and clouds of radiation that they encountered.
Kirk is on high alert. He even
Yeah,
tries to send his nephew Peter as security in the birthing room, which McCoy takes offense to. So,
yeah,
they settle with him being outside, but Kirk is all the while determined to figure out if they have an intruder on board, perhaps in the form of this baby.
yeah. Kirk and Spock kind of theorize on the bridge that the baby's probably not
Yeah,
related to Isel in any way. It's probably a foreign alien of some sort
yeah.
that chose her as a host. And, and it probably chose her as a host because Deltan mothers are very, very protective, and Deltan mothers have very special bonds with their children. Um, so the child is born, and McCoy checks it out, and indeed, it's human. It's not even Deltan. It's human in its biology. And according to McCoy, it has leukemia. The child has leukemia, and it may not even survive the week. But it also is growing in an accelerated rate of about a year per day.
Hmm.
Um, Isel names the kid Irska. It's a girl. She names her Irska, which means pure light in Deltan. She says she named it after the child's father, which is kind of cute.
and
um, yeah,
and that's when this mysterious cylinder shows up, and it seems to be following the Enterprise.
yeah. It doesn't seem hostile, but it also doesn't seem to be piloted by any known life forms. but it does contain a sort of radiation that is very similar to the cloud they encountered when Icel was impregnated.
Yeah.
Um, the cylinder kind of matches the Enterprise course and parallels it, and parallels the speed, and yeah, and it remains outside. It's just kind of moving alongside the ship.
Yeah, it's apparently full of dark light,
Yeah,
which is apparently similar to dark matter. And it's just, again, it's like an unknown thing, and Kirk and Spock and the others are very wary because they are sure that it's connected to this child.
yeah, exactly. A week passes, and Arska is physically 10 years old, and she seems healthy despite, the leukemia thing that Bones mentioned before.
Hmm.
Um, Isel wants to return to her duties, and she has this conversation with Kirk, who is still nervous about this kid, that is very clearly connected to the cylinder, who's still there. The cylinder is also still there outside the ship, moving alongside them. And they have this conversation. Isel is very protective of Arska. She's very defensive of her. She says she doesn't sense any connection between Arska and the cylinder. Arska herself apparently senses a connection, but doesn't really know what that connection is. But Isel is convinced that her child is, innocent, and isn't really a threat to the ship. And then the cylinder beams over to the filtration system a small cube of dark light that contains a very lethal toxin. And they isolate the cube, but it's already too late. The toxin is spread, and if they don't find a cure in 6 hours, they will all die.
Yeah, so everybody is exposed to the biotoxin. They all look terrible.
Yeah,
Um, this includes essentially everyone but the child.
yeah,
And McCoy's not having any luck finding a cure. They've only got 2 hours left, and so Kirk suggests that um, McCoy look at the
examines.
child
Yeah,
and
examine
examine the
Olarska.
child and see if there's some connection or some way that um, they could fix the contamination.
Yeah, Arska on her side is meanwhile, he's kind of becoming friendly with a lot of her crew. She's very close to Scotty, for example. She apparently enjoys engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, Isel has returned to duty, right?
Yeah.
But she's trying to get Kirk to understand just how deeply, like you said, she is connected to her child, and that she does feel her child is innocent.
Yeah.
Um,
And Kirk understands her, but Kirk
he
also
does,
says, but he says a very good point that, she is innocent, but if she wasn't here, the cylinder wouldn't be here either.
right.
Yeah.
At this point, the cylinder has done something that has put all the lives of the crew at stake.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kirk's hunch was correct. Bones does find a cure based on
Hmm.
Erska's blood cells, and he manages to, inoculate all of the crew. And just as they finish, the cylinder does another thing. It shoots an energy beam at the Enterprise that damages the impulse engines. And theta radiation kind of floods the access tube that leads to the way to fix the engine, making
And
it,
if they don't fix the engine, the ship will explode.
yeah, will explode in about 2 hours. Yeah,
So another life or death situation. Obviously, any humans who come in contact with the radiation, even for a short period of time, or uh, could potentially die from the exposure.
yeah. As they say, it takes about 15 minutes to do the fixing, but a human
Yeah.
can't sustain in this environment for more than a few minutes at a time.
So Mr. Scott dons his white suit. I don't know
Yeah,
if you noticed his little white uniform looked very motion picture.
yeah,
Um, and he obviously goes in to try to fix the damaged coil. But uh, something goes wrong, and he's dying, and the child senses that he is dying, and wants to save him because she understands engineering, and she also believes that her blood adaptation, or her blood, can adapt to the radiation, and thus also provide a cure for those who are poisoned by the radiation in the same way that she provided inoculation against the toxin.
Yeah. So Estelle, of course, first she refuses because she feels it's too dangerous for a kid, but they're running out of time and options, and so they're forced to let her do it. And she is right. Her blood does adapt to the theta radiation. Kirk and Spock discuss Spock's idea of mind melding with Arska to try and find out, what the cylinder is. They theorize that maybe in her subconscious she does know, but not consciously.
Mm-hmm.
But Spock suspects that he won't be able to mind meld with her effectively because he won't just be getting her mind, but also Icel's mind. And Icel's emotions will overwhelm him.
However, there's another Vulcan,
Yeah,
Zahn, who says he might be better suited to do the mind meld.
yeah, yeah, because he's fully Vulcan and he's better able to handle emotions. Yeah. After Arska finishes, repairing the impulse engine and saving the ship, Zon does mind meld with her. And he gets a seizure and
Mm-hmm.
passes out. So Spock mind melds with Zahn to see what he learned, and he nearly passes out himself, but he manages to get a single word out. Cryontha. They don't know what it means. No one does, not even Arska. Even though, again,
Mm-hmm.
it's from her mind. While Spock does research, Kirk tries to, oh, first of all, after the engine is repaired, the cylinder, of course, does another thing. Um, suddenly the Enterprise hull is
Mm-hmm.
fluctuating and is about to collapse in 15 minutes again. They just go from one thing to
And
another.
so this time, Kirk has decided that he's just going to use phaser fire
Yeah,
against the cylinder, which actually has the direct result of causing pain to Urska.
yeah. And when Isel sees that find the phasers causes Arska pain, she of course gets very violent and she tries to stop Kirk by force by destroying the phaser controls. She manages to do that, but she's then apprehended and she and Arska are escorted to their quarters, while Kirk and Spock and the rest remain on the bridge trying to figure out what to do.
Hmm.
Um,
But Spock has figured out the meaning of the word, and it means unnecessary shell. So
yeah.
this gives, I'll say, Urska time to think about what unnecessary shell means to her.
Yeah, she and in their quarters, Isel and Ariska kind of, you know, do sort of a telepathic thing and try to figure out what it means to Ariska. And when she figures it out, they must act quickly because the hull is about to collapse. They escape the room and run off to the transporter, where Isel transports Ariska to the cylinder. Kirk and Spock arrive just in time to see her do it. Um, Isel then explains that Arska's body was the unnecessary shell, that Arska is part of a species that basically left their planet 100 millions of years ago. They evolved into a non-corporeal forms, but in order to reach this non-corporeal form, they have to go through all the phases of life, death, and learn all of the emotions of a corporeal form. So they have to experience life in a body before they can join the other people of their species
Yeah.
in their current state. And Zan, who woke up from his seizure, he explains that he sensed that The cylinder basically did all of those things to the Enterprise to teach Arska all of those things.
All of those life lessons
Yeah,
or those lessons of having a physical body
yeah,
to help her move on to her next stage. So essentially, she was born from ICEL, but also still in what they called an embryonic state within the Enterprise before she could leave her shell and then become her true form.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Iset is of course very sad, but she says that, their physical connection was severed, but not their, emotional connection. Um, and yeah, that's how the story ends.
Yep.
Yeah,
The end.
the end. And if the story of a woman getting impregnated by a ball of light sounds familiar, it's because it was adapted first to an episode of The Next Generation. Um, I kind of hinted at it before.
Hmm.
The second season of The Next Generation, the first episode there was called The Child, and it had a very similar basic premise. And the reason was that while they were working on the second season, there was a writer's strike.
Oh.
Yeah, and because they were missing a script, they just reused the script from the phase two. They took the script, they doctored it a little, and they filmed it. Um, the story that they adapted the next generation was very very simplified. There was no cylinder, and the child kind of uh there was only really one really bad occurrence. There wasn't like the constant calamities
Hmm.
that happened with the cylinder. But yeah, it's the same basic story.
I knew this was familiar because it must have been a long time ago that I saw that Next Generation episode because I didn't remember it in detail at all. But I was like, this is so familiar. And I was like trying to pinpoint what it was. And I started writing down notes. I was like, okay, this reminds me of the empath because you have, tests of this life form and like whether or not they're well, in that case, it was whether or not they were worthy of, representing their race and should their race be saved by the Vians. But it was like subjected to different tests. And then I started thinking oddly about Mbinga's story with his daughter,
Hmm.
which, as you know, is new from Strange New Worlds, and obviously much longer after they made the episode The Child for New Voyages.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought it had some similarities to Mbinga's connection with his daughter, who was sick and ultimately merged with an entity to become non corporeal. And he had to let his daughter go as well. That
Yeah.
resonated with me.
Yeah, it is also very similar to that. Um, yeah.
But now that you tell me that, yes, okay, there was an actual Next Generation episode, I'm like, it clicks.
Yeah. In the next generation, the woman that was impregnated was Diana Troy. But she basically has the same powers as Icel, so
Right.
yeah, so it tracks.
I'm surprised then that they even wanted to produce this episode as it was originally for this show.
I mean, a lot of this show is based off of ideas for Phase Two. The
Right,
blood.
but if they had like already done a version of it in the Next Generation.
Yeah, but I understand why, because the version of the
Mhm.
next generation is not very good. I mean,
Mhm.
the two first season of the next generation are kind of notoriously not good. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I get it personally.
So this is the original, better version of that Next Generation episode
Yeah,
in
and
its
and
true form.
yeah, and it's very Gene Roddenberry. It
Mhm.
reminded me a lot of the concepts of the motion picture, like
Mhm.
the next stage of human evolution and going beyond your physical form and all of that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, that's a definitely a theme we saw a lot in the original series too. I mean, think
Yeah,
about like the Organians, trying to stop a war between the Klingons and the Federation. Just they're like, we were like you once, and we no longer need, you know, our physical bodies. Yeah, you're right. That's a very Roddenberry thing to do.
Yeah.
One thing I noted was this episode was short.
It was short. It was short, but it's about the length of an actual original series episode.
But I guess it felt short because the previous episode was longer.
Yeah, and also before that we saw a two-parter.
The only thing that struck me is like odd about this. Well, not the concept itself. I think it was all very Star Trek. That they finally found a use for Zahn,
Yeah.
and it was short lived because it was like Zahn can replace Spock in the mind melding, but Spock ended up having to do the mind melding anyway. And I was kind of like, what's the purpose of that? But their argument was that Spock was too emotional, and Spock, when after he melded with Zahn, seemed really shaken.
True.
And the actor played it off as if he was experiencing very strong emotions. And I don't know, that struck a weird chord with me for some reason.
Yeah, I really liked that moment. Yeah, when Spock melded with Zahn, he says he felt a connection like he had never felt before. It was a very emotional moment for him. Honestly, I think it was very well acted. The Spock actor is
Yeah,
very, very good. Yeah.
it was well done. It was,
Yeah.
how do I put it? It felt like Zahn was superfluous in that moment.
Yeah.
Like maybe they should have just let Spock do it from the original, from the start, and then we would have gotten to see that without that unnecessary role by that other mysterious Vulcan who's joined the crew. I don't know.
Yeah.
That felt off to me. I was just like, just go with Spock. Spock
Yeah,
mind melds everything.
yeah, I guess, but also I kind of liked Zahn's sassiness. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a true Vulcan, so I'll do it better. Okay.
I didn't really feel it as sassiness. I was like, ooh, that's not nice. Spock, it just looked like Spock gave him this like look,
Yeah.
telling me I can't do my job because I'm half Vulcan.
Yeah.
I appreciated the background we got on the Deltans. Had this aired in the original series, it would have been a nice introduction to Deltans.
Yeah, that's true. I'm wondering why they didn't make Isel like bold, like the Deltan in the motion picture.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the makeup effects were too difficult.
Hmm. They must have been.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt bad for her being like an ensign on the ship who's suddenly pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, she seemed
uh,
pretty cool with it.
she just handled it so well.
Yeah, I think that's my criticism for both this adaptation and the next generation adaptation. The women are very, very chill about suddenly being pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then basically suddenly having a child out of nowhere, unplanned, without consent.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, had it been an original series, I think it would have been certainly a really good introduction to Deltons. Even if the concept of the immaculate conception concept is handled very blasé.
Though, I can't really see it being an episode of the original series, if only because the discussion of, I saw kind of explains that every connection the devils make feels sexual. It wouldn't fly on 60s television, I think.
Oh yeah, and giving birth feels like an orgasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That would not have flown past the censors.
Yeah, but maybe they would have phrased it otherwise, like, "Oh no, to
Uh,
Delton's giving birth is a great pleasure," or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like how she really threw Kirk off for a minute when she showed up in his quarters and like touched him, and he was
yeah,
very much, what do you think you're doing? Are you trying to influence me?
yeah. Honestly, there were a lot of really great moments in this episode, and a lot of great acting too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Even the child was a pretty good actor.
Acting is much better than I'd say like the first episode that we watched. Everybody's good has been good since the beginning, but I think they found their stride now between the writing and the acting.
Yeah, and also I think I want to commend the child. The child actor was also very good. Though they did the thing that always makes me laugh when like the child was born, the baby was born, and it did not look like a newborn. It looked like several month old baby. That's not a newborn.
It was already super aging even in the
Yeah,
womb.
yeah.
Right. There are a couple of other oh, and I forgot to mention like Peter did have his cameos in this.
True. Peter
Um
was there too.
but he was not in any way central to the plot, so
Yeah.
we got to I mean I actually thought it was interesting in the beginning when the entity was kind of going through the cabins, and it saw Peter, it saw Scotty and Chekhov, and then ultimately it found the female, the Delton. um but later we get to see Scotty, well, we get to see that Scotty has a connection with Erska, but in that original scene I don't think we've ever seen Scotty in his quarters before. And it was kind of interesting because he had his boots thrown around. He had a half-eaten donut on his bed, and he was holding an empty bottle
Yeah.
as he was sleeping. I was like, so he's kind of messy.
Yeah.
That tracks.
And also when the kid comes to see Scotty in his in his desk, and he's just kind of listening to like um what's it called, the Scottish instrument, the
Yeah, the bagpipes.
bagpipe. He listens to
Yeah,
bagpipe music in his spare
right.
time.
Although I don't know how they, were so close when she's only been around 10 days, but hey.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
um so we've gotten to see McCoy had a lot more lines, by the way, both these
Yeah,
episodes.
that's true.
And we've gotten to see a good amount of Peter, and we've gotten to see Chekhov too, right? Chekhov's had some good lines. Sulu apparently is back from an extended leave, and he was in the opening scene of the child because he was, had the con while they were doing the, while you said they were like on the night shift.
Yeah.
um, but I keep wondering when we're going to get more from like Uhura or some of the others.
Yeah, I'm also wondering that. Um Guess we'll
That would
have
be
to
my only request is like, hey, Chekhov's getting a good role. You had the whole like Sulu thing
Yeah.
in Blood and Fire.
Also, I think the in enemy Starfleet we see the Sal in the commanding chair, but not
Yeah,
Uhura.
yeah.
Yeah.
DeSaul's gotten some lines. He's gotten to sit in the commander seat. I did write that down.
Yeah.
Um, and we kind of briefly saw Scotty. He's still kind of in the background. So Hoover and Scotty to me are like, hey, give me a little more.
True.
That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with how uh, entertaining and trekky these episodes really are. I mean, I recognize now that yeah, they're just episodes that were already planned that they just never got made. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the show.
Yeah. We have, I think, 3 more episodes to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, those were our thoughts on episode 6 and 7 of Star Trek New Voyages. And some point in 2026, the new year, Soda and I will be watching those remaining 3 episodes.
Yep. Hope to see you there too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.